Hey guys, Jason LaCory here, director of Alien Vengeance. We're going to see how well this works. I'm homesick from work. Well, the movie's starting up, so you'll hear me clearing my throat and probably my wife going in and out, me letting the dog in or out, whatever. I've been meaning to do this for a while, so I'm doing it while I got the time. So that spaceship you're seeing there, that's an air freshener we had left over that I spray painted and glued very little extra stuff to that I had from broken models, and we put it on a blue stick and then in front of my blue screen in my studio, and we just kind of put it in front of some flight footage. And the flight footage was actually from a class my dad and I did, a flight class we took. This scene here where we're doing everything in front of the closed door, and we've got all the voiceover in the background. When we arrived at the house, the owners weren't there. They were letting us shoot in the yard, and we actually had planned on access to one room of the house to shoot this scene, and we didn't have it. So we went with this method of the voicemail and everything, the voiceover and everything, in front of the closed door, so that we could get the scene shot on time. I mean, this is back before I was doing Jack versus Lanterns that I'm working on now. That's taking like a year to get shot because I'm trying to get everything done the way I wanted instead of when I wanted. Back then, we worked on really strict budgets and confinements of, and we still do, and the confinement of having locations for only a certain amount of time, and me only having a certain amount of time off, my actors only having a certain amount of time off, flying people in. So we shot real tight. So when we were there, it had to be shot that day or it wasn't going to get shot at all. We'd already been rained out once, I believe, or twice. We'd replaced an actress already. So, I mean, so with me just talking over all of this is like boring shots of a door and everything. But there's a lot of action actually going on here that you can't hear because I'm yammering. And I'm watching it on Amazon Prime right now, by the way, which you can watch it on Amazon Prime also. And here's Melanie, covered in blood. And our gun, and that's our drop gun. I don't know what noise it makes when it falls. I can't remember if we used a natural sound when it hits the grass. I think we did. Yeah, it's a little plastic hollowy sound there. So we have two versions of that gun, and one of them is excellent looking and cost me a lot of money, so we don't drop it. And that one was like a broken one that we bought for like $2 that we use specifically for dropping. And there's the Jeep. We originally had a much older car in mind for this scene because the car's supposed to break down. And we didn't want to use a pretty Jeep like that for that because it doesn't really make sense. But the irony of wanting to use a car that breaks down in the scene and then the location being 90 minutes away is the car would never get there. And so that's basically what happened to us. And so here we go. You're going to get to meet our cast in a minute. And there's our dead battery noise. If you've ever had a battery go dead while you're driving, you know it's not fun. You know. And I think we're still recording. And not my favorite audio, but I mean, if you look at how windy it is, and then when you can see everything blowing around, when you watch the movie and notice how little wind you hear, we actually did really well with the sound for what we were working with. We're supposed to be in the middle of nowhere. We're actually in the front yard of one of our benefactors, Dee Anderson, who let us film at her place a lot, and she just, she had a great location for us, but it was surrounded by a neighborhood, so you trying to make it where you didn't always hear cars passing by and didn't hear dogs and all that other stuff was not easy. And one of my favorite lines is coming up, I think. Yeah, Christina Doust, our actress who plays a scientist in Lumber versus Jack and Jack versus Lanterns, has to play a real ditzy girl in this movie, and she just did an excellent job of it. And it's funny because you'd be having a conversation with her, and she's her usual intelligent self, and then as soon as I shout action, her expression would just go blank, and she'd fall right into the character, and it was just wonderful. We played a lot of cliches in this movie, a lot of iconic types of things with, excuse me, where our characters were a little bit, you know, cookie cutter, but then we maneuvered how they reacted, especially under the aliens' influence. So we had all our typical, you know, youngster characters, and then we flipped them on their head, which is something I enjoy doing. Is using tropes that we all know, but not following them through. So occasionally you'll get surprised by somebody who you expect to act one way because that's how that type of character has always acted in movies before. But they'll act another way because people in reality aren't as predictable as archetypes lead us to believe. These shots were actually done twice. We did them once for the trailer, and she had a different outfit on, and then we did it in this outfit to match it to the movie's continuity. That wood pile was serendipitously there, so I used it for some breakup. And here you'll see our incredible special effects. Fortunately, we were going for that 50s type of movie drama. Oh, and the miniatures. Built this in my garage with, I think the only things we bought, we bought moss, and we bought some sand. Actually, we didn't buy sand. We had sand left over from All Wrapped Up, where I brought in 250 pounds of sand to make my backyard part of Egypt. And we were pulling that sucker with a string. If you look closely, you'll see it at some point. It's on a tabletop in my garage. It was only about 4 foot by 4 foot, that whole miniature. Not even, probably 2 by 2. And then the smoke escaping from it, someone had given me canned smoke. John Thiessen of Interlude Films, I believe, gave me a can of smoke that he had left over from a miniature shoot he did. We sprayed it down and then ran it in reverse so it would come up. And yeah, so that was our canned smoke incident. And then excuse me. And then this is it all intercuts seamlessly. Look at that. You'd never guess that was a miniature. You could even see the swirls on it you could probably tell what type of air freshener that is. And check out that white bird on the bottom of the right screen. There he goes. He's just sauntered in for no reason. I had a miniature and I broke the 180. Look at that. I'm so bad. I'm such a rebel. And always plan to have as many cuts and such as you can, like between scenes. Have some nice footage to cut away to, so in case you wind up with continuity problems, you can explain it with the gap in time that happened between this shot and that shot. Although I think we're double tapping our time here, where what we just saw happen with Melanie's character Jan is about to happen for these guys in this scene. Yeah, the thing where he mentions there's dogs out there was never in the original script, but dogs just kept barking every day. We actually rescued, we reunited a puppy and Mama during one of the days of the shoot. The puppy had gotten out under the fence, and we caught her and brought her back to her mama dog. Happens on a lot of our shoots where an animal will wander onto the location, and we just make sure they get home okay, or to a shelter. So here we go. Oh, yeah, see, so they're still there when the ship comes. And we do our magnificent sound effects and stuff to make it work. and our joke about a big pile of poo. I think that toolbox, I can't remember if that's a lighting box or an audio box, but I believe that's a piece of my film equipment. Um, I'm gonna get that looks like it's for my light, but I don't know why I'd have brought my spotlight with me. Oh, our stock footage and Saint Arc headquarters, not to be confused with Stark, which would be a Marvel thing, and we don't want to get sued. So it's the Saint Arc. That's the rubber werewolf baby, and that is an alien gunjoid. Um, More stock footage on Debbie's TV there. Skelly in the background, who you might recognize from numerous of my other movies. Every time we have a lab, we have a Skelly. We reuse as many props as possible. That table you're seeing there is, man, that's just my blue studio back in Florida. I miss that studio so much. My North Carolina studio has never been quite as easy to work in. It's not as square. My dad's Army binoculars in the background there. I just thought it was funny to have Onyx with her one eye on a pair of binoculars. I don't know if that's rude or not. I guess it is, but we were just trying to make it look as military as possible. And that TV in the background that's looping that tape no longer works. That's looping that DVD of the alien footage. But yeah, so the other alien you saw, the spidery looking one that made the cricket noises, is in another Alien Vengeance movie, The Other Me, with Michelle Tomlinson. And, excuse me. I'm going to pause this here because I'm having some trouble speaking, and we will be back. What the hell? So here we are at the crash site. We got really lucky. There's this big pile of wood there that they were waiting for a burn to do or whatever, and so we just made that kind of like the ships on the other side of that. Our smoke machine barely worked. We did what we could with it. Our fog machine. I always have trouble with fog machines, and I don't know why. But we were trying to match up, the smoke here to the smoke in the miniature so that we'd get an idea that they were connected somehow. And I believe this music was from Footage Firm, and it was just a great piece of music that we got. Or it might be Fresh Music Bakery. I honestly don't know. I can't remember now. And I feel bad about that. But it was one of those two, and whichever one supplied it, it was just fantastic for this music we used here. This was... this is my last movie, I believe, with my my HD Sony AX1, and it was a single chip camera, but it was HD, and I was so excited to have HD back then. A little tiny camera. So I tried doing a lot of close-ups and shots where we had a lot of breakup and stuff and color stuff. One of the things I did like about that camera, try to get on the couch. That's my dog. One of the things I did like about that camera was it had this soft filter for skin tones, so that the high definition wouldn't make everybody, look completely miserable. So it had like a beauty filter on it, and it worked really well for a lot of stuff. But one of the things is when it was on, since it would try and solidify colors that were kind of like what it considered a flesh tone, anything that ran into that yellow area, it would it would smooth out. It would skip some pixels. Somebody left their water in the foreground, and I can see it on this shot, which is terrible. It doesn't show up on the DVD outputs, I don't believe, because of the way TVs crop it. But on this internet stream, I can see a script and I can see a water bottle. That is hilarious. So if you're watching this on your DVD and you don't see what I'm talking about, it's on the bottom right screen. If you're watching it on Amazon Prime HD, since they crop it differently when they broadcast it to you, and the TV safety lines don't crop it out, you'll see someone's water tank all the way off on the right and a water bottle and a script in the foreground on the bottom right corner. But anyway, so that beauty filter would also attempt to smooth out like the leaves and stuff in the background, so it gave kind of a soft focus in these wide shots, which has an ethereal kind of look, I guess, but it's not really what I was going for. So I don't know when I put this on YouTube if you're going to see that terrible foreground stuff that's making me crazy. How did I miss that in editing? I didn't miss that in editing. I had the safety stuff on. I expanded shots when stuff needed to be cropped out. But you can never tell. And that's why I usually overcrop a shot when I'm doing the edit, because you can never tell what's going to sneak its way back in on some specific people's televisions. Back when I did this, a lot of people still had square TVs. So we'd wind up with like the black bars top and bottom. Oh. Excuse me. We had a lot of these little like awkward try to build romance moments and stuff in the movie. The character building while trying to keep people interested in the action. And if you hear purring in the background, that's my dog. She doesn't bark much, but she purrs a lot when she gets petted. You might have heard that. I got to record her for monster noises. She's really enjoying her ear getting rubbed. And that sniffing and stuff was her too. And then we did this clever thing where she's sneaking him the money. You know, you'll notice a lot of the characters in my movies are poor. That's because they're based on filmmakers that I know. So, you know, if you're watching this with ad blocker on, thanks for contributing to our stereotypical poorness of low-budget filmmakers. Oh, more stock footage. Wherever that helicopter is flying from, it's snowing. So they're going to go track something in Florida, but they're flying over snow because that's the helicopter footage I had. Someone asked me about the microphones on there, if they were bendy straws. They are indeed bendy straws. Inserted into shooters' earmuffs. Excuse me. That, you know, I use for like doing the lawn, but I basically bought for costuming because I think they were $2.99. And I needed, you know, 2 or 3 sets of them. And a very expensive costuming of, I believe everyone brought their own black t-shirt. I had those beautiful matching silver guns until one of my PAs lost one of them. And they lost the better one too. Like I say, they're matching, but they're only matching because they're in the holster. When they're out, one of them looked much more real than the other. It's in Hit and Miss. It's in this. I used it in almost all of my movies because it was such a good-looking gun. It was like $24 or something, which is super cheap. More stock footage. And my wife's blowing a kiss goodbye because she's going to buy me stuff. And she's going to check on the price of pumpkins for me, right?
Yep.
She's got her thumb up for, because Jack versus Lanterns, we need some possibly real pumpkins, but if they're more than $12, we're not going to go there because we're already over budget. And it's always nice to make a character do maniacal laughing. You know, just test their abilities. Talking to themselves is always easy, and you know, for a guy who uses a lot of either theater actors or inexperienced actors or actors who are just getting their foot in, I sure give them a lot of tough stuff to do. And it's good because they either shine or they show that they can learn how to do it, you know. So this is our junkyard now. Now, originally, this whole script, this was originally written to be shot in L.A. And because I was going out there for Hook Goddess magazine, and a friend of mine had sent me all these pictures out there of this place he could get for free. And I'm like, for free? Yeah, what? That's fantastic. So I started trying to get some actors out there. I was cultivating a cast. I wrote this whole script with that location in mind, trying to get out there. And I get out there and I call the guy who owns the location, who my friend had done video work for at a very low rate, because he then told my friend that he'd let him use the location for free. And I tell him, the guy goes, yeah, I can let you have it really cheap. And I'm like, oh, all right, well, I was told free. He goes, no, we can't do free. We do it really cheap, $400 a day. $400 a day might be cheap by LA standards, but it is not cheap by my standards by any means whatsoever. This location cost me nothing and usually came with cookies. This was a true patron of the arts letting us use her yard. But so we had this junkyard location, so I wrote the script to take place in a junkyard. So fortunately, he had this project car he was working on there, and then there was a truck, an old truck there that he was using, as a farm truck. So we popped the hood on that, and we tried to make as much of the background look like there may be a lot more cars and stuff around. If I had the time now, I'd have gotten a more. If I had shot it now, I'd have gone to a junkyard that's here and gotten an establishing shot of that place, and then just use this for close-ups and stuff. But it worked out that we were able to get, the feel of what we needed and describe it and everything else. Considering, I think originally our location was like 10 to 20 acres. And we wound up shooting on about 2.5 acres. The script adapted very quickly. And what's funny is the same exact thing happened with Alien Vengeance 2, where the same producer and I were trying to work together in LA. I wrote the script based on the locations we had there for Alien Vengeance 2. And I think what made that one fall apart was he moved. So half of the plot elements in Alien Vengeance 2 were based on being written for a location that we no longer had. And I had to decide which ones to keep, how to keep them, how to update the script. And this one, fortunately, I really didn't have to rewrite much at all. I had to reconfigure my... Christina smacking Jesse in the head is just fantastic. I mean, Jesse never deserved that. But this was a fun little cast to work with. One of the things I like about the small casts is when they get along, it's good, and they the energy comes across that way. A lot of this stuff was shot on separate days. I believe we shot this whole movie, I don't remember how long it took overall, but mostly in the span of a week. Probably about 10 full days of shooting. There is our alien. And, okay, so he's a drop cloth. The alien's a drop cloth. Duct taped up to make a bag. And all that color, all that paint and texture and everything else on him is from using it to paint other props. So that's where all that genius design came from. And then I don't know if we covered him in water or Vaseline or some kind of goo. And there's our alien tentacles. Man, those things worked great. It was all, practical effects here. Those are foam rubber tentacles. That's the probing tentacle I made. This scene upsets a lot of people. There's our hair gel. And this is the probing scene. That thing is as disgusting as it is. And there's Colin. As gross as that tentacle is, it's a pool noodle with a little cap we made on it to make it look less like a pool noodle. And then all its veins are just hot glue. And then we painted over them with some latex and stuff to keep them on there. But so it's just all gluey veins and stuff. And I think they started out red, and then that other foam started out green, and I just spray painted the whole top of it. And these other ones are green foam wrapped around wire. I was going to try and do suction cups and stuff and make them look more octopusy, but then I'm like, you know what? It's an alien. His tentacles shouldn't necessarily look like our tentacles. And they make a reappearance now in Jack vs. Lanterns. The tentacles, I repainted them green. And they're pumpkin vines. So when Jack gets attacked, and that the placement of that is unfortunate, but in order to make the tentacles attached to the actor, and I made a piece that just tucked into the back of your belt and had two little PVC extensions on it, and the pull thing went in there, and they just had little PVC handles that we'd use. That beating on his chest, she really went to town on him, from what he told me. Um, I don't honestly remember. I never saw bruises or anything, but I know he said that she really kind of went off on him. And yeah, like we're pulling a part off a Mazda for a Jeep. Also, didn't I figure an alternator is pretty generic. We kind of allude to the fact that it's either an alternator or a voltage regulator by it being the battery. That's the problem. For all you non-mechanical people out there, that's how that works. Um, oh, look, he's mansplaining now. And but this was basically the scene uses the full scope of my car knowledge at the time, which was wrong. But it's those little things you pick up when you got to grab stuff at a junkyard or whatever which I haven't really done much of. Um, Especially, and now you just you order parts online, even rebuilt parts, they come to you. You don't go scavenging around for them as much. The junkyard around here, it's kind of like that location. The junkyard that has a lot of my Jeep parts would be like 45 minutes away. If my Jeep can make a 45-minute run, probably don't need a part for it. And now Jesse's gonna muscle up and help him get the nut off there. And this is our little comedy relief here. I didn't remember Sarah was actually present for this scene. I thought it was just the guys. Or I might be thinking of something that comes in later. And then that we get this little echoey sound here that you guys aren't going to really be hearing much for the commentary thing, but when you watch it later, or if you watched it already, it's one of the things when you write in a script that someone whispers, and actors actually whisper, especially actors who have worked on much more professional stuff like Jesse has. They get used to lavalier mics and really good audio setups. They get used to an audio person being there instead of just a tripod with a microphone on it. They actually whisper, and the fact is we need them to act like they're whispering, but to still project their voice. Because I can't remember. I think I was up to my better shotgun mic by then, but at one time I was shooting with this little tiny shotgun mic, and it just couldn't pick up sound in situations like that if they whispered. So we'd have to boost it, but then when we boost it, we get all that background noise. So we try and clean up the background noise, and we get that kind of tin can sounding noise. And then we get the scene where they're sending the two women to pay off Pop to save money, and they know that he's got a reputation for being kind of a sexual predator with his daughter. This is really they're not really boyfriends of the year in this movie. And Christina and Jesse with the canoodling scenes, they were just so cute together. They they did so well with something they were so uncomfortable with. They're like, how much do we need to be making out, and how? And I'm like, I don't know. Just make it look like you're a couple. So now we have more of Jan talking to herself, because she's not crazy, but she's going there. She's headed to crazy. And this is a girl who's been through a lot, and now an alien has resurrected the corpse of her abusive father and then abused her again. So, and I just thought, so many movies have a knife as a weapon, or a gun as a weapon, or a machete, or a cleaver. And then they started getting into hammers and stuff. And I'm like, what if our killer, not the alien, but our other killer, because this is a revenge movie, used a rock? Oh, the pipe scene. There we go. Oh, that's just boys being boys. And so that's not a lead pipe, that's like a prop pipe, but it's not rubber either. It's actually PVC. And I don't know if you've ever been hit with a good solid piece of PVC, but it hurts. I don't think it's as dangerous as a metal pipe, but we wanted to be careful with that anyway. And that's true of a lot of fake weapons. Like some of the fake axes they sell now. Lumber versus Jack, our axe is all foam rubber. And there's more of our comedy. And there's me, your humble director, who looks like he's trying to smuggle a pasta pot in his shirt there. The sad thing about this is I think I was actually lighter back when this was shot than I am now. And that's probably me sucking my gun in. But anyway, enough about me. Someone asked me once why I'm in so many of my movies now. And I said, well, the one thing I know that's going to happen is the day that I shoot, I'll show up. You'll notice there's a lot of like set 3 shots here. And I forget why, but my wife could not join me on these days, and she was going to be my camera operator. Fluffed out on us. So I wound up just setting the camera up and walking into shots. And it's one of the reasons I prefer the video cameras with the fixed lens for shoots like this, because a wide enough shot, you see we're all pretty much in focus there. With the Mark V that I like to use a lot now, it's a very narrow range of focus when I use my best lens, and especially on a tight shot. And it's great for creating mood, but you can't do these like walk-in shots like this. Oh, and we actually made the lady scream and run in those heels. Look at those heels. Okay, so you see how I'm standing right on the corner of the screen. That's probably how the script and stuff snuck in, is I might not have even been looking at the shot. You see how I'm standing on the corner of the screen there? That's because I was behind the camera, I'd hit it, and then I'd run into the shot. And I needed to make sure I didn't block anybody else from the camera. There'd be no close-ups of my character in this, I believe. Although, look at that, a 3-shot. That's nice. Oh. And cop wearing no gun. I think I still own those jeans. I know I still own those boots. And we took the gun out of the mix for this because it's just too easy to, shoot the bad guy. Which, if you watch the Alien Vengeance series later on, you find would have been a waste of time anyway. But so there's a lot of excuses written into the script. I do not remember the stars on those lapels for that shirt, but I've got my. Okay, so the big accident, lots of injuries. That's why there's not. That's why there's not more cops coming up. And I'm gonna pause here again because I'm doing a lot of throat clearing. So if you'll excuse me. You might even hear me. I don't know what I was gonna say. You might hear me gasping for air a bit here, clearing my throat. Definitely clearing my throat. So this is like, coming up with a reason to split everybody up, and you've got to get your characters to make bad decisions in horror movies. You have to make them as plausible as possible. Oh, more stock footage. Actually, I'm sorry. This is self-shot stock footage. We were staying, I believe, in Los Angeles again, at a hotel near the airport. So I ran out there with my camera every time a plane flew over, and took footage so I could use it in a movie later. This is stock footage of a hazard cleanup. A truck crashed. Watch the glasses. So the sunglasses are my prescription glasses with clip-ons on, and I needed those at the time to focus the camera. You know, I didn't need the clip-ons, but I did need the glasses. And in the far shots, I would forget to have the sunglasses portion on, or I'd forget I had the glasses on at all. And, it gets funny when I'm in the movie and focusing the camera at the same time, because I'll wind up in the shot with the glasses on. That doesn't happen anymore now that I have specific glasses for my nearsightedness or my farsightedness. I don't know which way it goes. When I need to see something close up, like the camera, I have very specific glasses now. So as soon as I get out from behind the camera, the whole world goes blurry on me, so I don't forget I have them on. It's a quick reminder. Again, I thought the boat for this guy who owns a junkyard that's kind of spread out. It made sense that he'd be storing a boat somewhere for somebody. And it gave me a way to have something in the foreground. That was obviously something I was playing with a lot during these movies. And this is, really emotional scene in what is essentially a sci-fi horror comedy. And if you know Jesse Kozel, having him play this character, it is so far from the real him. In his handling of this emotional scene, especially. Jesse's a big fan of women's rights, and this moment is one of those things that, we use more to show what's wrong with how guys relate to women, but we also needed it as rack focus. We also needed it as a way to, and there's go some dogs. We needed it as a way to set Jan's character off on who she would think now the alien has jumped into, because her character's a little crazy. She's starting to realize that her father's personality, though, may be floating around, and she wants to kill it. And she's going to keep killing what she thinks is her father over and over again. And so, as it jumps around from character to character, she's trying to follow it. Of course, if Dad's walking around, or Pop's still walking around, it's still in him. So I can't remember if we called it Dad's junkyard or Pop's. Oh. And thunk right into The Walking Dead. Oh, and the sun did not cooperate with us there at all. Well, later on. Okay, so that's another helicopter I shot myself. And here we go. So that background, you might notice the walls are the silver walls are the background from The Simplest Things for Pratt's spaceship. And I bought that cushioning stuff to make an astronaut suit that we used in Cult Goddess magazine, the comic book of Space Goddess. And I had that left over, and whenever I'd watch movies, I'd notice, the helicopters had that padded wall inside, so we went ahead and put that up there. That badge is left over from my very, very, very first feature film, Dark Rose Feeding and Breeding, which is still not available anywhere for various reasons. We're back to the locked door of the house. And this is when she makes her decision that he's a demon. And I can't remember when all these different things were shot now. It's amazing. Because I'm sure they were all different days. You might recognize this location also from Stop Dead. It's where the RV parks and Debbie goes out from the RV to take a pee. And Joel tries to convince her to use the bathroom on the RV, but, Kevin's character's in there. So, We use it a lot more in this. If I still lived in Florida when I shot it, we probably would have tried to bother them for Lumber versus Jack. But now I have my own big backyard that we use for movies and stuff. But you can't get cars into my areas as easily. We did turn my driveway into a parking lot for the Cyclops movie in Wary Tales that we are still shooting a year later also. The weather in North Carolina gets me because like in Florida you don't have this break where you have to stop doing one thing because the weather changed so much that it won't work continuity wise. It's it's fairly steady there. We get fall, we get winter, but not so much that it's noticeable on camera. Here you get a big dump of snow and the leaves all fall off the trees. Okay, so look at this. So the sun is like right on her now. She's just like bright orangey, lit from one side, and now it's not. It's more of a overcast, and we get the normal colors. And I tried color matching as best I could, and the sun's right back in her face again. No scrimming at all. So these clouds just kept moving back and forth, and this is one of the trials of independent shooting. And even if we could have set up, and look, now it's perfect color again. Even if we could have set up a sheet, I haven't figured out exactly how I would frame and stand that up and travel with it and everything else. And now he's in the direct sun. And we shot all this this whole scene we shot in like 15 minutes. I forget how we did that bloody thing on his head. I think those guys did that for me. The cast really came through on the makeup for this. There wasn't a whole lot, but they did a lot of the stuff they could on their own. And we had a good time with it. You might notice an indiscretion. My gosh, we even shot indiscretions here. We shot like half of our movies in Florida at this location at some point or another. I really need to thank Dee for that. That shack in the background that you saw a moment ago, that was Old Tom's shack in Indiscretions. Mike Christopher played that character. And Whack. He's not meant to be a likable character, and he is not. It works well. And here comes the tentacle again. Wham! The effect is such a simple concept for the tentacles, using reverse footage, but to make it play right forwards, the actors have to work in reverse, which took a little while to explain to each of them, some more so than others, but they all wound up doing such an excellent job with it. And this action sequence with, I think only one of them was really action trained. I thought it worked out fairly well. The toss was good. I didn't have stunt people on this one like I often do. And the Alien, I would have thought Zombie 2 was a joke, because at the time all of my friends who were directing movies down in Florida were doing zombie movies, and it was kind of I go ahead and I do an Alien movie and I still wind up with The Walking Dead in it, which is not a new concept at all, right? It's Plan 9 from Outer Space. Its whole background is it's aliens taking over corpses, but I think we switched it up a little bit. We got a little bit of and then Jan with the Rock. We got a little bit of I Spit on Your Grave, a little bit of The Thing, a little bit of Plan 9. We went through everything. We took all the best movies and put them in a blender and created our own characters for them, and so. And there's the helicopter again. And the seats of the helicopter you don't see to make it look like they're climbing in. We had gotten a set of stage stairs from a theater group that was losing their storage space. And I used them in the studio all the time to adjust the backgrounds and stuff so I can get up to the ceiling and to change the lights in the ceiling lights. And I'm like, you know what? You guys just sit on those and we'll do that. And in front of the padded background. And then here, I think is when we turned the fan on. And there's a little artifact there I just saw. It was probably from switching the fan on. We switched the fan on to make it look like the helicopter's starting up while the door's still open. And there's the helicopter in the snow again, and a different helicopter. Because it's more stock footage. So the first one was an Army Huey, and that one's like an EMT helicopter. But they're halfway across the country now. It makes sense they'd have a different helicopter. I don't know why it's still snowing though. Another character gets to talk to himself because he's confused by the alien. And if you heard that grumbling, that was my stomach growling. Um, and like I said, this is very casual. And now we're about to use a set of gloves I bought probably the day after Halloween, many years before we shot this, because I thought they looked cool and I knew we'd use them at some point in my illustrious career. Um, and again, a fairly simple set of effects. Sound effect for the switch, and a lot of this is, I like to think of my movies as like slightly longer episodes of the 60s Outer Limits. Oh, check that out. Okay, so I didn't want to use computer effects in this. I specifically didn't want to. But I did want to, for the transference of the alien, I did want to have that like energy looking effect that they had in all those 80s movies when they would just draw on the film, like 70s and 80s. So how I did it in this movie, because it was back when you could still do it, I output the footage in Adobe so I would take a couple of seconds of footage and output them as separate frames, import that into Photoshop, and then by hand draw the light effects into the footage, over each frame. So all of that was done frame by me. It wasn't done physically onto actual film frames like they would have done in the 70s and 80s, but it was as close as I could come since I was shooting on digital. So I didn't just mimic the effect, I actually tried to mimic it by doing it by hand as closely as possible. And I still do my light effects. You can't output to film strip anymore, I don't think. But I'll output a single frame, put that in Photoshop, and do the drawing on there. And I'll either then animate that overlapped piece across the other footage, or I'll make it move within Premiere. But I still very rarely will do a light effect or laser effect or luminous effect using After Effects unless it's something a client wants. Because I think the retro feel I'm going for in my movies needs that more hands-on approach to it. If it looks too slick, it doesn't fit the rest of the movie. And a lot of people will take me to task for that and say, you should make it look as realistic as possible. But if you're watching these movies for documentary looking, for realistic effects, you're not the audience that we're shooting for, to be quite honest. We're looking for people who watch the same movies over and over again because it's the type they like, and people aren't making them anymore because everything now is so effects driven and so slick and so clean and crisp, and there's no grit to it anymore at all. And there's no joy in the oddities of independent filmmaking that way. We want to be, and this is Jesse playing the alien out. He's doing such a great job. And we use the tentacles and the hand and the sound effects to kind of let us know who's where. But the back to the special effects thing, the quirkiness of these movies is what makes them stand apart. When you shoot a movie for $1,200, you're never going to make it stand apart. Well, some people. Let me not talk down other people's abilities of talent, but you shoot a movie for $1,200, it's very rare that you're going to make it stand apart through the simple use of better special effects or bigger sets or more illustrious locations, or what's going to make you stand apart is your oddities and the limits you're willing to push within your budget and the creativeness you're willing to use to make your special effects get on screen and tell the story, even if they're not necessarily wowing the audience as an effect themselves. So we added some of that same, like those bubbles are little drawings on there, digitally added, but by hand put on. And because I was hoping for more bubbly googling. Most of when we've got melted alien, it's colored water and vinegar and baking soda, and we mixed it together. Some of the big green chunks in there were so those big green chunks on the top right and the bottom left. Those are pieces of the leftover air freshener that we turned into a spaceship. So it gives you an idea of how much we will stretch the budget. I think we poured some of the old blood in there, and a bunch of stuff got reused there. And all biodegradable, dissolvable stuff as far as I could tell. So that we just had to wait for it to rain to clean it up. And sorry for the pause there. I'm also answering emails while I do this. So I should really have a lot more high energy for doing a director's commentary, and I may get around to doing a second one when I'm feeling better. But I've been planning on doing these for months for you guys, and I just haven't had the time. And since I'm homesick, I can't film. I can't be my character. I did just do some captioning work for a client, but I can only do that a couple hours at a time before my hand starts to hurt. And I just really, if I'm going to put this on Amazon, I think I'd have to caption this, so I should mumble less, right? But for YouTube, I think this will do it. And that's where I want to put this. I want to give you guys a chance to see the picture quality of the movie, the effects of the movie, get a feel for what the movie's like for free before, and hear a little bit of the background on it before you decide whether or not you want to go watch it. So I'm trying not to let a lot of original audio on here because we don't want it to compete with the paid version of the movie. But we do want it to give you a feel for it. So I want you to know there's some comedy in here. There's some action in here. There's a rubbery alien that we made out of plastic drop cloths. There's a crazy girl, and there's our other characters, and it's a revenge movie, and it's shot in one location that we just try to make look so much better. That tree is in so much of the movie. Isn't that an excellent tree? And look at how windy it is again. Look at how windy. It's amazing. And we're back to a shot of the alien goop. I must have really enjoyed that goo. Or I needed a bridge shot. I did stretch this too long, though, I think. Which means the movie's probably just over 70 minutes, and I was trying to make sure it was feature length. So feel free to complain about that. This is completely unnecessarily long. And I said that before it got this long. I don't know what I was thinking here. I don't drink when I edit. Oh, and then I added some more special effects. There we go. Yeah, I needed a bridge shot. And I like this angle. And we get the tentacles again. And this is great. So we needed to put slime on Christina's character for this, on the Nina character. And so Jesse did it for me. And he got some in her hair, and he freaks out. He's like, oh my gosh, I got some in your hair. And I'm like, Jesse, the slime is hair gel and baby shampoo. If you notice in the close-ups, it's on there, and in the far shots, it's not. A little bit of a continuity error there. And we're re-referencing our other Uzi slime. I give you an idea of how old he is. And I think we just put that tentacle, we have one of the other cast members, I'm sure, wiggling it around. And I think most of the time it's just hanging out in his pocket or his belt. And just about everybody was a tentacle wrangler on this movie at one point or another. And here comes another disturbing probe shot. And more slime. I think I have more of that hair gel. That actually reads pretty good on camera, that green gel. It looks like somebody sneezed on you. And so there's this stuff called Ultra Slime, which works excellent. and is about $30 a pint now, I think. And then there's green hair gel, which is not as good for that clingy, drippy, goopy stuff, but it does look nice and slimy. And if you go at the right time, you can get a pint for like $1.99. And so I usually wind up using hair gel. Sometimes Vaseline. And then for when we were squirting it into people's faces, we used baby shampoo or kid shampoo at least, because it has less irritants in it. And we didn't want to mess up anybody's eyes. How dirty my poor tentacles were getting laid out on the ground there and everything. Oh, there was a good drip though. And there's some more of those energy shots we did. And you can't hear the sound effects probably because I'm babbling, but and see the way her face changes? She goes from terrified to serious in a second. I mean, Christina plays two characters in this and does a great job. And you can just tell from the expression on her face which one she is. And I love that. And now she's the alien character pretending to be her other character, which is really cool. And now we've killed off poor Jesse's character. So there's some spoilers in this if you're watching it, because you're going to see the whole movie. You'll probably know who's gotten whacked and stuff throughout it. And so now she's playing someone else playing her in her own body, and she even does a good job of that, like pretending to pretend. You know, so I've always admired an actor who can make it obvious that they're acting when their character is acting, because that's like a talent. But you know, I'm sorry, I'm babbling again. But you know, that's what directors' commentaries are, right? Us looking at the past and babbling. I shot this movie probably 7 or 8 years ago, so my memory on it's not great. I've gotten to work with Christina 3 or 4 times since then, though, which is great. And I'm hoping to get to work with Sarah again soon. Got back in touch with her on Facebook and found out she's still acting, so that'd be good. I think the rest of them have kind of outgrown my style. To be quite honest, I think they've all outgrown my style, but some of them are more willing to still work in it for fun than others are, you know. It's I'm always happy when one of my actors who's gone way beyond my movies and is capable of doing much better stuff and stuff like that is willing to come back and slum with us a while, because they raise our visibility, they raise our quality level. They just make the whole movie better. So there's more of the footage from my dad and I's flight lesson. And then when the helicopter. And so Debbie has this extra cost where we have, especially when we were in Florida, where we had to bring her in for shoots. We would often try to schedule it when she had a convention in town, but then we usually have like 1 or 2 nights to shoot. So this new thing that I'm going to be doing with almost all of my movies now, for anybody I have to bring in, because the budgets, airlines are, you know, flights have gotten expensive and people don't want to fly certain airlines anymore because they're just awful. So the flights are pricey, and to bring someone in costs a bit. But I'm in North Carolina now. I don't have my Florida core crew anymore. I'm developing a very small cast of actors here that I can work with, but to work with some of my favorite people, I still need to bring them in. And I think my dad actually shot a lot of that footage from the plane with one of my small cameras. But so when I bring people in, I started it with Debbie on this movie. We were actually shooting part of Alien Vengeance 2 when I decided to shoot these insert scenes to expand on Alien Vengeance 1. Those 2 Chinook helicopters were flying by while we were downtown in L.A. And it looks like there was a big piece of fuzz on my camera at the time. That's interesting. I don't know if I ever noticed that before either. So I just took that footage, and then we put that in there too, because we had Chinooks. I mean, you're going to use Chinooks if you have footage of Chinooks. But so we brought Debbie in to shoot the insert scenes for Alien Vengeance 1. then we shot in the same weekend her scenes for Alien Vengeance 2. So that I was able to take her cost and the cost of her flight and everything and break it over the cost of the two movies. And the value of having Debbie Rochon as a main character in this, a guest character in the other one. Keep the two movies... Oh my goodness, excuse me. Keep the two movies connected by her character. And the Jan character. But we had to use a different actress due to schedule conflicts and other things. So we had a bridge character. We get Debbie Rochon's name on both. And from now on, when I have to fly somebody in, I'm making sure that I write at least 2 projects for them that I could use them in. So now that we're doing web series again, I'm hoping to use people that, we work with Michelle Pernay, and she's down in Florida now, which means we can probably get her up here a little easier than we used to from California. But so we're hoping to use her in a web series and another film this year, which I haven't discussed with her. If she watches this, that'll be the first she's hearing of it. I have discussed a web series with her. And perhaps even a third movie. And Jack vs. Lanterns is running late, so it'll be coming out this year. So it'll be a big year of Michelle movies if we get it all done. And then if we have to fly in, I want to work with Anjanette Cluis again. I want to work with Sarah again. Always want to work with Christina again. So whenever they come in, they're going to be coming in for 2 projects. Probably one main, and probably 1 or 2 where, they're doing cameos in them. Because I won't be fully cast for all those other projects. But through some creative writing and editing, they can be involved in multiple things. And this way we get the most value out of their travel. They get the most exposure out of their travel. And everybody's happy. So here's another scene where we're making excuses for splitting characters up. With the injured leg, but of course, and there's the dogs barking again. And I really didn't give Melanie a lot of direction here, so it was basically act crazy, and so that's what she did. This is the Nina character. Is supposed to have just lost her boyfriend, and she fakes her leg injury. There's something moving around in the background. I think those are cars, actually. And this is the alien seducing a guy now for. So the alien gets to pop around into different people's bodies, but he seems to keep the first character's personality, even though he moves around. And but he picks up bad habits wherever he goes. And this is us trying to make our one semi-heroic character not be, he was just fighting to protect the girls earlier. We're trying to make him not be too much of a slimy man where, even though he's about to cheat on his girlfriend, he shows that he has doubts about whether or not he should. But, again, our characters have to make stupid decisions. They have to occasionally be, they have to occasionally be really dumb and be bad people in order to propel the story forwards. If this wasn't going on, the next scene couldn't happen. Where they think that, they think they should go back, and there'd be nothing to catch them in, and there'd be no way to turn the Jan character against them without him being so easily seduced. This is one of those moments where we use the cookie cutter character of, the dumbass guy who's a slave to what's in his pants. as a way to move things forwards. And more of our alien acting like they're acting. And the sun was going down here. We were racing darkness here. See that kind of orange on Christina's character's face? That's sunlight breaking through the trees and us boosting the light like the gain ridiculously. You see, this is their way to... So now we know the alien was in Nina. Now they're thinking that it's in AJ's character. And the audience may not be sure because there was that physical contact there. So now we're finding out that now what the audience already knows, the characters are finding out that the alien has learned our customs by connecting with Dad's image, by picking up on Dad's memories, and of course we know that the Dad character is a slime bag who used to abuse his daughter. So we don't want an alien acting like him. And I'm going to go ahead and pause here again. And so here we have the obligatory scene of the panicked potential victim calling the police and he's trying to explain his way out of, everybody thinking he's the alien because he acted like a horny toad. And and of course we're going to come up on him, telling them to bring guns, lots of guns, big guns, because we want to give an idea of how dangerous they perceive the alien as, because they've killed him 2 or 3 times now, hitting him with a rock and everything. And my wife's trying to sneak into the house so she doesn't disturb this, and all it's really doing is making me wonder why it's taking her so long to get in the house. And so now we've got that tossing the foam rock in the air probably wasn't the greatest idea. That throw and catch, it kind of floats, like it falls much more softly than a rock would fall, or it looks more like a piece of concrete. So my idea was to make a rock out of foam I had, and instead of sculpting it, I just kept gluing pieces of foam together, and it just wound up looking like a piece of, busted shell. Whatever, it works. When we hit people, at least they didn't get hurt. It's got little sharp edges. Oh. But yeah, I should probably ask for a glass of water. Oh, and I may need to take a puff soon. I don't know if I should be. I haven't actually even checked any of these recordings to see how well the sound's coming out, because I realize I'm probably talking more softly than I normally do. But the recorder's about the right distance. So you guys who are wondering, if you watch the thing on our 8 gigabyte recorder, it's one of our videos further down in Inside HFP on our YouTube channel, I reviewed it. This is it on a table about 1.5 feet away from me. That's how I've been doing this voiceover, and it's me with a cold, having to take cough medicine and stuff just to get through the day. And if it's picking up, if you're hearing this okay, then you can have an idea of how well $20 can work. But the one thing is, since this is commentary and not actual syncing, a little bit of sync float doesn't matter. And this has that in spades. It syncs. It sync floats pretty badly after just about 2 minutes. It doesn't sync up with most cameras. I've used it with a couple now, as well as some of my bigger recorders do. But I've noticed that after about 5 or 10 minutes, almost anything will. But who in our line of work gets to do a 5 minute long take before somebody screws up a line, right? I mean, theater I can see, but film actors learn everything in snippets, right? Heck, when you give them a script a week before they're going to shoot with you, you're lucky if they can go off book at all. And a lot of my actors feel bad when they can't go off book, and when they have to refer back to the script. And I'm like, guys, I wrote it. I have to refer back to the script. They get to come in for a couple of days. We don't usually have any rehearsal days. They get to run lines with each other while I'm setting up lights usually. And then we go over a little bit of stage direction, and that's it. And a lot of them are, squeezing in these projects between one or two other independent projects. So they're actually trying to figure out which of three characters they are and get into character and everything else. So this is an excuse to keep them from going into the house. We put caution tape up around the door because I don't think that wasn't even actually part of the house. I think that was like a shed. And so him with the plunger, this was us he was supposed to have a crowbar here. And I think my friend Martin was going to lend me his crowbar. And he couldn't make it out to the shoot. You'll see that crowbar in Crazy Fishman versus the Fish Stick Guy on our YouTube channel. But he couldn't make it out, so I needed to come up with another junkyard weapon. And my wife and I were in the dollar store, and we spotted that plunger. And I'm like, oh, it's $1. I mean, we can get away with, spending $1 on the movie. And that's what we did. And then we wound up with a plumbing problem. So go figure. I think we cursed ourselves with that. This movie was one of the more cursed movies we shot on, where things just kept cropping up and going wrong and cropping up and going wrong. And I used my wide-angle lens for that shot, my adapter for that shot. I could tell because I could see the vignetting. Again, the corners of the screen that you see online that you don't normally see on TVs. When we're streaming this is unusual. Gives just a little bit of a fisheye effect. That camera, I used to have a fisheye camera lens for it also. And this here was just a very awkward set of shots that I hadn't really thought through. And there are the tentacles on them. We just did that with the sound effect. And I'm supposed to be struggling against the tentacles, but of course it was way too hard to get those very tight. And she just backhands them, which I love. Very strong women in this movie. The music is most of what sets the mood here. So you guys watching it with just my voice, it's going to seem really boring and silly. And then we decided to let the alien move. And of course, he's a little misogynistic here, the alien, but that's part of his big problem, isn't it? Right? We had to give him an excuse to move, and so we made it that he prefers to be male. He prefers to be predatory. And there's the reversal shot again, and the tentacle movement. I got to wiggle the tentacles more when I use them in the future movies. I didn't think I did it that much in the second movie. And it really did work well here. It's like, oh, and there's some more of our little light effect things. And again, that was all done by hand. And then we did a simple dissolve there for the tentacle to go away. And it was all in the dissolving and the acting. And, the actors had so much more to do when your special effects are, low budget like that. And did you hear? Well, no, you may not have heard Nina's voice there. She has a different voice for Nina and the alien. And then when the alien's pretending to be Nina, falls somewhere between the two, which was just excellent. And I can kind of gauge where we are in the movie by who the alien's in. This was we're lucky nobody got really badly hurt there for the head smack, because I'm telling them to put their heads together, but we're just going to fade to black, so they didn't really have to, but they did. And AJ doing a really good job of being the alien as a dick now. And of course, for the false space, as you might have seen the background there on the left, the truck was the one we use in Indiscretions also for the Rangers. In the falsity of that space, he walks off in the wrong direction because the Jeep's really parked right behind the house there on the other side. But of course, the audience doesn't know that because they haven't been to the house. And we get to see a little bit of circular storytelling here where the audience knows why they showed up, why they were at the junkyard in the first place, and the characters know, and the alien being in this character's body should know, but, he's thinking about other stuff. He remembers there's a car out there, so he's got the keys and he's going to get out of there, right, because the sheriff's coming. And here it comes. He gets in the car. And he goes to start it, and we get the same familiar noise we got at the beginning of the movie. That clicking dead battery. And we're right back to where the day started. And, of course, he blames the human brain on the problem that he forgot. And you can see the sun changing again on us. So the sun was going down about an hour ago in these scenes, and now there it is, midday sun again. Although this was one of the movies where I was smart enough, at least, that the whole thing takes place during the day. That was one of our budget... Ooh, nice punch. That was one of our budget-saving techniques on this one. It was all outside, except for the scenes with Debbie and Shade, with the helicopter shots. And originally those scenes weren't in the movie, so it was written to be all outside and all during the day. So there was no lighting to set up, no power to drag out. It was supposed to simplify things a bit, but then we kept getting rained on. It was windy every day. We had dogs barking because, during the day there's a lot more people out and up. Oh, and this was... So this scene here with our little Western thing and those boots, the speckly boots, was largely written in because this is from Fresh Music Library. I had just gotten this Western music from them, and I loved it so much. And I believe I just restarted my Western watching phase from, I hadn't been doing it since I was a kid. I hadn't seen a lot of Westerns, and then this got in there. Or I may have started my spaghetti Western phase because of this. And so we did this whole standoff because the music was there. I don't know why I didn't give him two gloves like that in this shot. I think it was just because we wanted to do the wipe over to that one. And we wanted to make it obvious he was the alien because they're going to beat him to death. And I made that wrench too. I kept looking for a rubber wrench, and I could only find blown plastic ones. And there goes our slime coming up. I think Jesse was on the ground doing that, or my wife might have come out that day and it was spraying with that. So that wrench is a piece of furniture foam that I just traced one of my wrenches out and cut it, and then I put a piece of cardboard on one side to keep it stiff, and we painted the whole thing with silver latex, so it sealed the foam, gave it a bumpy look, and made it silver. But it's nice and safe to kind of whack at somebody. Whereas the blown plastic ones, they'll hurt if you hit them because it's solid plastic. And eventually they break if you hit somebody too hard. So you don't damage the person usually, but you cause them physical pain, and you could hurt them, give them a concussion. And the thing will break. So the rubber ones are much better to use. But you have to come up with a way to keep it stiff, and you can't put wire in it because then you got to worry about it poking out. So I found that like a thin piece of cardboard. If you sandwich it between the two pieces of foam, it's even better. But if you just hide it on one side and keep that as your off-camera side, it works well too. And then you can trace almost anything and cut it out of foam and make it yourself. So something as big as an axe would be tough. Something round like a bat might be hard, but you can do a wooden board that way. Sandwich the foam around, two pieces of foam around a piece of cardboard in the middle to keep it stiff. Um, and I'm talking open cell foam like the green stuff you get at Joann's for stuffing furniture. It's not super cheap, but it's not too bad. And then you hot glue it together. And here we have our another emotional scene. And I don't think I had a lot of blood with me, and I didn't want to bloody up the Nina costume for this shot because I don't think we were done with it yet. And so we shot a lot of the violence off screen for this and through the wheel of the truck there, and then we just covered her in the blood. And I really kind of like the way that looked, and it's part of that like forced creativity where I don't know if I would have thought to do that shot. I don't remember my thought process there, like I said, because it was a long time ago. But I don't know if I would have remembered would have thought to do that shot if I wasn't forced to hide those hits that they weren't hitting. But because I was, we came up with that nice creative angle into the truck. And having to shoot both their lines here, we had to leave that window at least partially open, but it had to be closed enough to where they couldn't just reach in and pull the lock open themselves. So at this point, we think the alien's dead and that she's the only problem. But of course, we're wrong because he just won't die. And this is our character being crazy again. Some of this stuff, if you decide not to watch the movie in its entirety, you're really missing out. Some of it's just excellent stuff. And there's some of our silliness and the tentacle just whipping it at people. They probably took a few takes. And I think we're going to do a hand switch here again. He's using they did a really good job here, these two. And we gave him black blood, I think. No, we left his human hands for the choking her. Not sure why we did that. And then he's going to get in the truck. And we used a box instead of an actual battery because batteries are heavy. And I wanted a little more tentacle time. So we're about to... and it's one of those things where, like, in Alien Vengeance 2, we actually show the car window breaking. But at this point, my wife hadn't learned how to make candy glass for me yet, so it's just a sound effect for the breaking glass. And then the tentacles in there. We never see the broken glass anywhere. And she's supposed to open that by accident and find the box cutter. So we had to practice her kicking that open with her foot, clipping it. So it looked serendipitous rather than planned. And that's... So the box cutter was just a dollar store box cutter handle with a cardboard blade in it. And what's neat about that, like, so if you watch my movies, you'll start to notice a trend where the blade's all bent now because it was cardboard. Things that are made of real things, but are my safety ones that we use in the movie, are green. So there's a squirt bottle in Savage, I believe, is green. That means that it was the one that had just plain water in it, never had chemicals in it. This box cutter's green. Something else we used was green. So the green means go thing is a running trend with our props. That I'll have to keep in mind, if I you still want to double check them, but even though the box cutter was only being used on a rubber tentacle, we wanted to use a fake one so that the actress couldn't hurt herself. And my parents are calling during my attempted voiceover, so they're going to have to be put on hold. That's what that phone call was. Because they're reading on social media that I'm sick. So now they want to talk to me on the phone. Because I'm telling them I can't speak much, so they want to call me. So there's my old Saturn, which has been in several of my movies, and may even be in another one if I ever shoot in New York again, because my sister has it now. I think it's even in, I think it's in Lumber versus Jack. I don't know if it made it. I think it was gone by Jack versus Lanterns, which left us a car short. But it's in the Where He Tells thing. My character gets killed by the Cyclops in the Saturn. That's how we use a giant hand and it reaches through the window. It's kind of cool. Um, and now we're much closer to the road than it was intended to look the whole time. And we're getting a lot of lens glare there. That's crazy. And my weak ass couldn't actually pick her up. That's why there's that cut where she's already in my arms. When I tried bending down to pick her up, I couldn't do it. I'm in much better shape now. I was such a weak old man then. We're back in Colonel Onyx's office with Skelly. I think all of Debbie's stuff was shot in my house for this movie. And that's after lighting there, so that we could light it and then make it darker and then light it again. But what I like about that weird little round light is, again, it makes it kind of look like a POV for her with the one eye. And I really liked it. And now that's the beep of my parents leaving me voicemail. And I really liked the way her character came together, the shoulder straps and the shoulder holsters and the eyepiece and the way her hair was at that time and everything just really fit the character well, I thought. And Debbie just plays this character amazingly well. And now I'm getting another dingy doodle thing on my phone while I'm supposed to be working with you guys here. And so that's our open-ended ending. And now here's our closing credits. Because we were setting up, of course, for the sequel. And that's my email. I'm sorry, guys. This is the least professional recording you'll ever get. My wife's giving me a thumbs up for something.
I got it.
She's got it under control is what she's telling me. I can ignore this, even though we're pretty much done. Look at how slow this credit roll is, guys. This movie must be just over 70 minutes, huh? But watch the whole thing because I pretty much get paid by the minute, and I'd like you to stick around. You don't have to watch it here, but when you're on Amazon Prime, let it roll. Go make yourself a sandwich. Go to the bathroom. Wash your hands. Whatever. Go back. Watch the movie again. You had a great time. Oh, Martine helped me with the shooting on this. I don't remember when. I know he helped me on the first encounter short we did with the tentacle stuff. I don't know what he shot on this, but he was the guy who couldn't show up one of the days, I guess, that I had to run out there and be on the camera myself. And that's me apologizing for the audio mix because it's so bad. I know he was an alien wrangler on this, so he handled the tentacles and stuff, and my wife did some of that too. 80s style cheesy effects, that was me. And that I fully own. I was pretty proud of those. Thanks to D. Anderson and family and all of these other people for helping us out with props and probably, oh wow, yeah, some of these, we had not a GoFundMe, an Indiegogo on this, and these are people who donated money to it back when I used to do that because everybody else was doing it, and I felt it wasn't fair to not raise money for the movies that I was going to be passing on to my actors anyway. I can't remember what I paid anybody on this movie, but I'll tell you right now, anything that was the budget went either to, went mostly to paying actors and paying, like giving them gas money, probably feeding them, and flights because the special effects I couldn't have spent more than $150 on, and most of that was a big jug of latex. And I apologize to everybody in this. And that alienvengeance.com web address is now moot. You can go to hokefolkprod.com/alienvengeance, or just find us under About Us for that. But the other website just wasn't getting enough traffic for me to keep paying for separate names. I've just got the one domain name, and we break it up for everybody. And I believe that's it, guys. Yeah, there's my little copyright. 2010. So it was 7 years ago it was released. So probably 8 years ago it was shot. Thanks for watching, gang.